Irishman, huh?
That's right. Pretty much like half and half, Scottish Irish.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. So, Mr. Duffy, let's talk about your book.
Aha.
Um,
That's
right away, something I noticed was that it says Boondock Saints Volume 1, Blood
mm,
Origins. Are we to
yeah.
expect more?
Yes, yes. I've got way too much in here. So that's gonna be a book series, man. That's gonna be a book series. I don't know how long it's gonna go, but I think I could probably write these for the rest of my life because this one came out really, really fast. It's funny too because I was afraid to write a book. I kind of considered screenplays as more child's play and being a real author, something kind of out of the realm of possibility. Those were the
Mhm.
real big dogs. But as soon as I wrote the first line, it all just came flying out.
Yeah, it evokes the language and the humor of the film, and it is very much in the world of Boondock Saints. So I know that the fans of the films are going to appreciate this book.
Well, I hope so. I mean, that's it's basically a love letter to them. We shall see, man. We shall see. It's one of the good things about life. You don't really know, but yeah, this fan base is probably one of the more long suffering fan bases out there.
Right, and
25 years.
that's another question because the property has lain dormant for over 15 years now. So why the book now?
A couple reasons. No, number one, I think, is because yeah, I had been planning on doing this for wow, probably over 10 years, and just kind of got up the nerve to try. Just like maybe 18 months ago, and recorded the audio book too. I narrated it, and that was a much bigger thing than I thought, man. It's like doing a movie single-handedly, which is kind of, refreshing. You don't have to deal with like lawyers and agents and producers and shit, but it was really, it was a ride. So that was one thing. I had planned on doing it forever, and then what happened was I made a deal with Boondock 3. This is kind of an odd story. I don't know. This was right before I began to write the book. I made a deal with Boondock 3. This was like around 2 years ago. And I was staring down the barrel at two deals. I was looking at a Universal Television deal to do a Boondock Saints television series and a film deal with with these companies when the sort of end company in the line was Thunder Road, and they did John Wick and Sicario. They're kind of considered the action franchise kings. So I got both deals negotiated to the point of being able to be signed, and I disclosed to the parties. And the film guys said you can't do a TV show. TV guys said you can't do a movie because they regarded them as competition. I did what I could to try to like convince them because there was a lot of big differences there, and they just wouldn't have it. So I had to pick one. It's kind of Sophie's choice. Went with the movie, knowing my fans, they want those boys in their pea coats killing bad guys, right? So went with the movie. They are kind of on track, hopefully, to begin shooting in first quarter of 26 here, January, February. Keep our fingers crossed. But I'm out of the director's chair on that, just producing and writing, which freed up some time, you know, and some released a lot of anguish. I mean, the journey doing Boondock Saints, I couldn't be happier about. But once I kind of gave over the reins to somebody else, um, I felt like 1 million pounds came off my shoulders, Fighting you just kind of have to fight for every inch of ground when you're just like sort of a small filmmaker in the face of Hollywood. And it just, it seemed like, all right, now it's the right time.
Yeah. Well, I was actually in a press room Friday with Norman,
Uh,
and he did spill some beans that you've been talking.
mhm.
So glad to hear that that talk has been fruitful and that hopefully we're going to see that very soon.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, they're all trying. They're trying to back. What happened was, I gave them my script for three, which they had to, they had to, in order to get the rights, there's just all this stuff they got to do. And they wanted to put like sort of the Thunder Road, special sauce on there. So what they did was they kept all this stuff in there and they want to build new story around it because they want to do a three, four, and a five in rapid succession, which I'm crossing my fingers for. I think fans are sick and tired of waiting, decades between between films. So they're bringing in a writer to kind of build around that, I guess. So fingers crossed, man. In the meantime, I mean that's at least 2 years away if they hit every marker. So one of the things I like about having the book right now is I'm kind of out of the blue dropping about 2 metric tons of Boondock on fans that didn't think they were going to get any until well, like a while from now. So that's another reason I did it. I was like, all right, what are we going to do? Let's try to give them something in the interim here that takes that's like I wouldn't call it a new take on the Boondock world, but I'd call it a sort of raising the raising it to the next level. With I think that there's that old adage about the book always being better than the movie. It's true for a reason. I mean, you get so deep into the characters and you can see what people are thinking and expose all these new facets. So one of the interesting things about writing the book was being able to dive down deep into all the exposed things that you can't get to in 2 hours of a film. You just can't. And expanding that world and expanding that universe and expanding the characters in particular, it's like with these brothers. I mean, fans know this stuff in minutia, man. They know every word of the film. They're just like it's not like your regular, fan base. It's they get tattoos. There's millions of kids out there with tattoos. Um, so, in order to do this, I knew that one of the things I wanted to do was show all the differences between the brothers too. We know there's similarities, but what are all the differences between them? How do they look at the world? I mean, it's almost like over the years, the reason this story was, it was almost like I was just like transposing it. I was like a courtroom reporter you know? And it was because the fans have asked me so many questions historically about this, all the way from things that they, are natural to wonder about to things that are completely off the wall, And I had to answer all those questions in my head over the last 25 years and just built up the bricks to this story. Why didn't Connor and Murphy know their father when they saw him? Did they grow up without him? Did they, what's their relationship with their mother? What was their life like in Ireland before? How did they get into the United States? Why did they come here? Those are sort of, I guess, run-of-the-mill questions. But then you get things like, how did they meet Rocco? Why would you work? Like, why would you think about that? It's such a small thing. And when I think back of the characters, like, say, you and I liked Eric when we were growing up in movies. I wasn't worrying about whether, what James Bond's relationship with his dad was like. They do.
Yeah.
So over the years, brick by brick, that's what built that story in me, answering those questions in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and the book does really well show their similarities and differences because we get to hear their thoughts, which you wouldn't do in a film. So we know that sometimes, they're thinking down the same path, but they're taking different trajectories down those paths where they meet. Um, but speaking of origins, I've got you here. I've been wanting to ask this for 25 years. Uh, how much of Schmecker comes from the page or from Defoe? Like that character just captured everyone's attention. He was so multifaceted, layered, complex. Tell me about building that character and developing him with Willem.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we were LGBT before LGBT was cool. It was one of the first gay characters that was not stereotypical, a little here and there, but just a real, raw, powerful, super smart master. So yeah, he was written that way, but it was fun collaborating with Defoe on it because I mean that's writer directors. I don't know. They tend to be control freaks, but that was the thing I knew from the very beginning. You can do everything except act the part, right? So you gotta bring in an actor if you can find them. God, if you can find them. You gotta bring in actors that will take what's on the page to at least, one step further, right? Like I remember, here's a good story. I remember the we had this great build. We were going to do the Russian suite where the brothers fall through the ceiling. That was a build, right? So it was this huge, warehouse set thing. Carpenters were working on it. I'm checking it. I basically clipped as an homage the sunken living room from the Highlander. And I just did a much larger version of it. And so I think some of the dialogue was in there, kind of makes me feel like river dancing. But when Defoe's like a playful guy. He's got that childlike. When he walked in, and he was checking it out with me, we're walking through the set and the scene. He starts walking along the top of the couch, right? And I was like, dude, maybe you should do that, like you're presiding over this thing. And he's like, yeah, yeah, man. And then he gets to the river dancing line, and I was like, now that you're up there on that pedestal,
Right?
maybe you should actually dance. And he goes, that would be totally inappropriate. I'm like, yeah. That's exactly right. So at some point, with an actor like that, if there's enough play, like two kids in a sandbox, you can get you can go that one level deeper. They'll give you that one thing more. And Willem, did that a bunch of times. So yeah, the character was written like that. But in terms of like, putting little shines on them every now and then. An actor like Defoe is going to get in there. I mean, if you ask other actors, you should try this, Eric. Ask other actors to name their top three actors, the ones they love the most. You'll almost always find Defoe on that list. He is the ultimate character actor, yet he can go do some big action thing too, be just as effective. He's just like this jack of all actors. Um, and yeah, in terms of casting, that's pretty instinctual stuff. That's pretty like you sitting down with the guy. I mean, you can learn more having dinner, I think, with an actor than sitting there rolling lines.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk more about the legacy of Boondock Saints. I mean, let's be frank, the critics didn't get it, but the audience did. The audience found this story. To what do you attribute the love?
Ugh. If I knew specifically what that was, I'd bottle it. But I what some of the things I think some of the ingredients in there are a brother relationship between brothers. I think a lot of people understand that they have brothers and sisters. It's basically transposed. Sisters are the same way. Another thing about it is what I've noticed over the years is there's sort of like two factions of Boondock fans. Ones that just really love it because it's a thrill ride and they say funny shit, and yet it gets all actiony and it's crazy action. Sort of the regular kind of moviegoers who are in it, and then there's the believers, that look at it like, yeah, this is God, protecting them. That's why he can jump off a building with a toilet, hit one guy, and land on the other right before he kills his brother. Well, actually, technically, that's possible. It's called physics. It can happen. So I go all the way up to the edge of miraculousness. But all that visual imagery, all that Catholic ritual, the pennies in the eyes, the crosses, their own kind of prayer of execution, which I wrote. My dad and I actually wrote that together. My dad helped me on that one. All kind of lends to these kind of almost two factions who can argue their sides endlessly, and both have enough ammo to win. I can't, and that's what I try to do in the book. I'm not trying to. I don't want to take sides. I don't want that debate to go away. I don't want to. Oh, it's God. I'm never going to do anything like that. I'm going to always leave that question mark there. And and it's simply because, I mean, how many of us of faith, right? People of faith that struggle with their faith all the time. How many people? haven't gone to church in forever. And, they almost look at it like just stand up, sit down, say the words, Catholic ritual, Christian ritual, but they don't really know, So a lot of us are in that space. And I think that to a certain extent, the story kind of addresses that. The brothers never get up on a soapbox and are like, we were chosen by God and we're going to come and kill you. They don't say that. They say things like every man of every faith can agree on this. Don't be an asshole. It's almost like they're like, hey, you cross that line where you are a total threat to everyone around you and in our community, we're going to kill you, And that's why. But then again, they do it with this kind of, there's a belief system under this. So I think those types of things help explain it. And the fact that, these are sort of words of power. I remember when my father was religious when I was young, and then he just totally dropped it, got out of it, and we were not a religious household after that. But I remember, like in the Bible, you can say, look, don't fuck your neighbor's wife, or you can say, thou shalt not covet. And one of those has a lot more impact. So I always looked at these words of the Bible as almost preternatural, some kind of magic in there that I couldn't really explain. It just seemed like way more, had a lot more gravitas than normal speech and normal things that you read. So I don't know. There's a reason it's lasted for 2,000 years, I guess, and it's one of the things. There's definitely the spiritual in there. There's that push and pull. Did they choose or were they chosen? There's a lot of things in there that help explain it, but I don't know that I can do it 100%. And you're right, the critics have hated us since day one, but the fans have loved it, And really, if you had the choice as a filmmaker, who are you going to pick?
Right, exactly.
I go, yeah, but I got this funny story for you, man. Rocco comes up to my place one day and he's laughing so hard he can't talk. And he gives me a college newspaper. He had just spoken at this college. And the day before he was coming, the movie reviewer of the college newspaper gave Boondock a shit review, right? So everybody goes to his event, and the day after, like he hadn't let the day after, the reviewer was caught in the local college kids pub. A few people came up and questioned him about it. Pretty soon, there's all these Boondock fans in concentric circles around this guy while he's arguing his point. And at one point, they all just recited the brother's prayer of execution at the guy. And I was like, oh my God, I would give a significant portion of my net worth to have that on tape. You know, I mean, it's totally terrible and intimidating, but these fans, you're right, they take it like, I don't know, way more personally. There's like there's three bars in the world that I have nothing to do with. One's in Tokyo, Japan. It's all Boondock Saints themed. They call the film Shokanen over there, the executioners. One's on Red Square in Moscow, big Irish pub. They've actually built their own version of the gun room with decommissioned Soviet firearms. And they have these 4-inch thick glass counters in which they've laser inscribed all the Russian bodies from the Russian suite with pennies in their eyes. And right here in the US, there's the Boondock Saint, the French Quarter of New Orleans. Been there for 20 years, and it's owned by three retired cops. So these types of things. Oh, and check this out. This is the Boondock
Oh,
Saint
wow.
Motorcycle Club. Its mother chapter started in Cape Town, South Africa, then Johannesburg, and then another one in Belgium. And there's another two opening up this year in one in Spain, one in France. Going to be 200 or so full patch members of the Boondock Saints Motor Club roaring all over Europe and Southern Africa. So these types of things, yeah, it's difficult to explain, right? I don't know the movie. I can't name a movie that's had that type of personalized response. They really, really take it personally. They really, really love these brothers, and they even like Smecker and Rocco. There's all these other characters that they just can't get enough of, which is why the book, the ability, the chance to go deeper, and in volume one, we don't even get to Smecker. Smecker's going to open up volume two, and you're going to find out a bunch of things about him that you just simply didn't know that seem perfectly in line with his character. Almost like, oh, when you find out interesting new things about people in your life, it's like, well, oh, you make clay pots? Really? you know, and you see how it feeds into what they do and who they are.
That's awesome. I actually have been to the Boondock Saints bar in New Orleans.
Ah,
Uh, so I
yeah.
used to live in Texas. I visited several times, and I was like, oh, well, I gotta go in here. How much research did you do when you were writing the segment in Ireland?
Oh yeah, just like internet research, and we have I have this great I got an inside guy. I got an undercover cop, Eric, one of our brethren, uh, an Irishman named Nick Hall. He runs the Boondock Saints Legion fan site. He lives in Killarney, and we've been friends forever. And he kind of, was a great source of. I'm like, hey, so I needed to figure out how kind of like government housing worked and what types of families would be in there. I needed to figure out like what type of, what type of environment would Connor and Murphy have grown up in that's not full on city, but not like, out with just goats and sheep and stuff like that. So I wanted like an upbringing that an Irishman might recognize, right? So going through all that with him, you know, he helped me find the little town I was looking for, Ballyfermot, where they're from, and pictures of it and stuff like that. So yeah, I had an undercover cop, did a bunch of research on that. Had some help with Nick, Lord Nick Hall. He's an actual lord. Um, Other than that, it's all family stuff. The relationships. I'm sure you have them in your family. Your crazy drunken Irish uncle, stuff like that. All those stories are baked into the DNA.
Yeah. Um,
By the way, don't worry
before you,
about going long. Don't worry about going a little long today. We've got our next one got pushed, so we can talk for as
excellent.
long as you like.
Um, I gotta ask if you can tell me anything because let's talk about part three because last we saw the boys are in prison
Yeah,
at the end of All Saints Day.
yeah,
So, you'd think that would limit a lot of what they're going to be able to do.
yeah, yeah. Got to get them out, right? Fucking jailbreak. Um, yeah, the boys got to get out and get back to doing what they're doing, but you can imagine what that would be, right? Two of the biggest mass murderers in American history back out on the streets. So what I did was I mean, again, they're bringing in a new writer here to kind of work around this, but one of the sequences that one of the really big story elements that they're preserving is how the brothers get out. And yeah, I can't say too much about it, but they're going to get out, and it is a pretty spectacular way that like one of the things I loved about writing Boondock as a script was those creative moments where you figured out something, right? And they drop into my head just like they come out of the sky or something. Like I remember where I was the day that I figured out, hey, what if we do the crime scene investigation first, leaving questions, then show the brothers do it in flashback, answering all those questions. And we got a lot of credit from the fan base for that. They loved that type of non-linear storytelling, right? That was the same thing with how the brothers get out. It is not exactly what you expect, and it becomes a highly highly action-oriented, uh, explosive scene. Or set of scenes. It's really kind of like that's a whole, that's a good portion of the first act right there.
What responsibility, if any, do you take for people who have embraced the vigilante aspect of the Boondock Saints,
Yeah.
especially in these powder keg times we're living in?
Yeah. Great question. I've been thinking about that for a while now. It's like these two guys, what was his name? Who was the guy that Luigi Mangione
Yeah.
and Tyler Robinson? These guys, I'm sure, think they're vigilantes that were standing up for what was right and doing justice. I take no responsibility for any of that. I think that they're mentally ill young men and did absolutely. They're exactly the kind of guys that Connor and Murphy would kill if they were real. Um, but yeah, vigilantism as a whole. I mean, even with the type of violence we're seeing in our streets and the type of attacks kind of under the guise of retaliating against injustice. I think that's a really dangerous thing. I mean, one of the things I liked about the story, one of the things I liked about Connor and Murphy were like if you had to choose, you're living in some city or town with some crime and there's suddenly you find out there's actual vigilantes in operation in your city. That would be a pretty explosive thing, but who would you really want to be doing? Like, if you had the choice, would you want these kind of these kids like that? Or would you want somebody like Connor and Murphy, where there was an actual belief system underpinning it? Good boys. That's one of the reasons people like them. They're essentially good boys. They don't shoot the guard that's making minimum wage and has three kids to get to the mob boss. They take killing very seriously, and they only do it when they're 100% sure. One of the reasons I love being able to go into the book, because yeah, wow, now you're getting me. One of the things I hated about having to storytelling in movie parlance is the shit you cannot get into that's obvious, right? Like if you and your friend or you and your brother decided to do something that's crazy and we're going to be vigilantes, right? The You would just shoot guys in the head and try to get away with it with guns, right? That requires a shitload of planning. How many times did they follow him? How many times did they get his moves down? How much investigation did they do? And the setup can be just as great as the actual doing of it in terms of, watching it in a movie or watching it play out in your mind in a book. And the Exodus. How the hell do they get away? They got to put a lot of distance between them and that and what they just did right away. What is their escape plan? So there was two-thirds of it really not being addressed in the movies, right? The candy setup where they're even arguing about whether to do this guy. And then they see something and he does something and they're like, no, it's him. We got to go. And they do all the arguing, the brother banter back and forth. That's gone. But in the book, we got it. And then getting out of there. That's gone, but in the book we got it. That's one of the things I love about books and being able to go a lot deeper with these characters. But yeah, I mean, let me ask you a question. What do you think vigilantism, and it scares the crap out of me, is just simply because it's like it's morphing right in front of us or rising. What do you think about that?
I think it's very dangerous, that one person's idea, concrete in their head of what is right, can embolden them to take a life, whether it's objectively right or not. It's outside of the bounds of civilization.
It is, yet it's the hero's journey. It's the oldest story ever told, right? Every superhero, those are our biggest movies, is a vigilante, you know? So it's like something we've always had and always been, and our stories, some of our best stories revolve right around that. Yet here we are. I don't know. I'm just as worried and scared as you are with that stuff. Because I mean, even over the years, like, there was two court cases that involved murder where they tried to use Boondock as a part of their defense. like they
Mm.
had seen it and somehow were inspired. Obviously didn't work, but it's horrifying to hear. I hate that. I hate that a lot. It's almost like,
Yeah.
do you remember back in the day when they started suing like rock bands like Ozzy and Twisted Sister because we all just dismissed that like you got to be kidding me. That's just censorship. And there's always going to be some crazy out there and they'll pin that tail on any donkey they wish. The way I see it is if you're that far gone, you were going to do it anyway. You decide to like be controversial by you know pinning it to video games or movies or something like that, then that's just part and parcel of not being mentally all there. But yeah, it's a concern for me. I don't like that at all.
All right. Well, let's veer out of that. Well, reading the book, the McManus brothers are big film fans, which I'm certain you are as well. What are some of the films that influenced and inspired you?
Oh man. Though, did you ever have films when you were watching them when like in your youth growing up where it was just that, oh man, that's just super cool. Like it changed. It was like this one's different. One of the first ones I had was Highlander, which I mentioned earlier. I loved Highlander, right? And Sean Connery doing his thing. The whole thing just felt different, right? It was different than anything I had seen. And then like the first and second Rocky movies. Wow. You get into all that, you come out like, oh. And even James Bond films. That's where I developed my opinion that like of what cool was, right? And I said, n nothing's as cool as a James Bond film. Like if you go there to that European beautiful ski place, it's just a little bit less than a James Bond. It's spectacular, but it's not as cool as James Bond. So that Full Metal Jacket, that I love that. Platoon, the war movies, Apocalypse Now was another one like that changed things for me. Um, wow, God, The Godfathers. It's those movies that like when you're scrolling along your streamers, you'll watch them again. I mean, how many times have you seen Goodfellas? How many times have you seen The Godfather? Christ. I'd rather sit there and rewatch that than take a chance on something that already looks like it's gonna suck. But then all of a sudden, like these days, because it's not all doom and gloom, they're doing there's some excellent TV out there, man. I love Peaky Blinders. I loved Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones came just as close to almost being it was the one thing that came very close to being as good as the book to me. They really, really did a great job with that series. And a bunch of other, honorable mentions there. I don't know if you've seen the Ed Gein thing, Monster. Have you watched that yet?
I was talking to a friend about it last night. She said she got sucked into like 6 episodes right away, and she was like, "Have you watched it?" And I'm like, "I don't do true crime. I don't. I don't. I don't want to know the guy next door is going to murder my wife. I'm Freddy Krueger is not going to murder my wife, so I'll watch that. But no, I don't do true crime.
You should check it out because what it really does is it shows how what the influence was in Hollywood and basically horror films. It goes right into like the guy that played Norman Bates and his love affair with his man, how it was influenced by Gein while he was in prison and stuff like that. So it goes in place. It zigs when you think it's gonna zag. You should take a look. Highly recommend it. Very good job. And who's that guy the guy from Sons of Anarchy? God, I'm terrible with names. Charlie
Oh,
Hunnam.
Charlie Hunnam. Yeah, yeah.
Pull
I
that
hear
one
he's
out of my ass.
amazing in it. Yeah, nice.
Wow. Wow. I mean, it's good just for his performance alone. Wow. I mean, that's some pretty groundbreaking stuff. He does not even look the same. They did some stuff with his face or something. I don't know what the hell they did, but it's incredible. So it's not all doom and gloom, even though there's a lot of schlock out there. I also highly recommend this TV show called Euphoria. Have you seen Euphoria?
I still haven't watched that, but it's on my list.
But lambasted as being the woke TV. It's not. It's not. It's fucking amazing. Extremely well acted. And Yeah, it sucks you right in. But historically, yeah, we all have those little films. I've gone through a few of them that kind of changed it for me, and made me, maybe like want to do that. When I wrote Boondock, I didn't have any lofty dreams of being a director as well, and I just thought it was. I didn't think anybody would read it. When they did, yeah, we kind of went to the wall there, but being able to do one of those because. Well, whatever, damn the critics, I guess, but I'm listening to the people. And I know I made one of those types of movies that was in my youth. I watched it and this one's different. This one I love. I don't like, I love this. I made one of those for the world. I think I can die now. That's enough for me. I mean, cult classic of the two best, awesome, most awesome words in film, and
You
fucking did
got
it.
it. Yeah, 100%. One more question about the book. The film had such great iconic visuals, very sleek. I'm surprised this book isn't a graphic novel. Did you have that decision think making
Dude,
process, and where did you go with
you must have a crystal ball. Well, we
that?
did a graphic novel on a sort of comic book series with, new story long time ago. But yeah, just a couple of days ago, I'm meeting with this company. I probably shouldn't say their names, but they do big comics and big graphic novels that have this kind of idea for Boondock and to kind of take it into the supernatural world in a lot of ways. So we're going to be talking about, yeah, graphic novels and sort of webisode, like comics, web comics and stuff like
Mhm.
that, action web comics. But yeah, the stories seem to fit in. It almost, I can't explain it, but it almost had a comic book vibe from the time it first came out. From the way it was shot to some of the little one-liners, you could picture in a bubble. We had so many one-liners with Boondock, which is why I love the book. I mean, everything you liked about Boondock as a fan, and of course, it's not only for fans. Crime fiction, crime thriller readers can have a good time. You don't have to have known Boondock Saints, but the the fan is gonna if you liked the humor in Boondock, it's times 10. If you liked all the creative story, characters, all of its next level, all the one-liners, there's dozens in there, and we've just kind of expanded that universe, in my opinion, anyway. I've expanded that universe in a way that does not insult it. It deepens it, just look at it this way: when the brothers got to Boston. How the hell? 'Cause you don't just come here and start killing bad guys, you know? Two brothers trying to just work their asses off, send money home to Ma, you know, survive and get their slice of the American dream. Why did they come? They came to form their own construction company. They're jacks of all working class trades. They can do it all with their hands. That was the goal. But there was another one. This is where we bring in family legacy and a dark bloodline. They're on a clandestine search for their father or what happened to him because they don't know. And mother never told them. So when they are boots on the ground here, fresh start, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, going to get their slice of the American dream. How do they end up doing this? How do they get sucked in to the shadowy world of vigilantism, And I thought about that in a very sort of brotherly way. Like me and my brothers have gotten in trouble a million times. How did that happen? You know? So the footsteps they take on that path would have to almost be like a very reluctant thing at first, and they're separated. One brother's like, "We got to do something about this." The other's like, "Oh, look at you knight in shining armor, are you? You fucking Batman and Rocco reconnoitering the dark streets at night." You would have to think there would have had to have been a lot of back and forth, an emotional, spiritual minefield that they would have to go through. And then what happens when one of them actually kills a man for the first time? These are things that I won't call them rites of passage, but they're almost like things that vigilante killers must deal with at some point, you know? I have killed somebody. What does that mean for my immortal soul? How spiritual am I? What happens when one of them goes on a spiral, a downward spiritual spiral after killing, and the other one sleeps like a baby? You know, now all of a sudden, the brother, how could we be so far apart on something like that? We're so together on everything, but this one thing, right? And then what happens when it starts switching? You know, suddenly the guy that was okay with it isn't anymore. And the spiritual ones were like, hey, now I'm good. Let's go. So basically, how do Connor and Murphy not only develop their style, you know, how does their superhero outfit get in their lives? Those turtlenecks, the pea coats, the lambskin gloves, you know, their particular style of weaponry, their tattoos, and we're going to find out in the book series what each of those tattoos mean. They're basically their heritage and the things that they've been through, marking sort of rites of passage, the next step up in the ladder. So there's so much story there that I couldn't tell in a movie that I was dying to tell, that it almost, you know, it just came flowing out, and I just kind of look forward to. It's almost like God said, "All right, look, you done good. Your cult classics are out there, but you know now it's somebody else's problem. Now here's a little gift. You can coast the rest of your life and just write these," which is strange because now that that word got out, I'm starting to get some movie offers to get back behind the camera again. I will certainly keep you apprised, Eric, but yeah, might be able to kind of, you know, it's been a long time in this business. I'm now what's considered a veteran, and one of the things that vets can do is choose who they work with. You know, I want to work with people I know have it in the right place, my friends and allies and people that have always been there. That way I know that final product is going to be good. And it's funny too, because in 25 years, really one, you know, one thing, even the book is one. Oh man, it's fucking AI cameras. Hold on for a second.
It thinks you're about to make a really salient point. It's like, let's get in
Yeah.
there. It's directing.
Oh God. All right. Standard. Did it fix? Stand. We're doing the rest of the interview.
That's gonna have to do.
This close here. How about this? I think I can
There you
make
go.
this work a little bit. All right, what were we talking about?
Uh, in 25 years, there's been one.
Oh,
There you go. Pinch and zoom.
all right. See that?
Nicely done.
AI.
Still got it.
That's
So you were saying you're a veteran, you want to work with the people you know are going to make good product. You said in 25 years there's been one, and then AI took over.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I almost feel like the Norman Bates of directors. Like you did one thing so good, now everybody just like you're not going to do anything else. But there are lots of scripts that I have written. And there's other things I want to do. And in fact, there's this one called the Blood Spoon Council, which is about a vigilante group that somehow identifies, tracks down, kidnaps, and assassinates serial killers, drops their bodies basically at the doorstep of the FBI. And this was the one I wrote right after Boondock. You know, it has the same theme of vigilantism, but I did a couple of years of research into serial killers uh, before setting pen to paper on it. And it's always been that, you know, that one. I think almost every writer has that secret little project he keeps in the back of his top drawer, brings it out every couple of years, knocks the dust off it, kind of updates it so it's ready. And now we're getting some serious kind of shark bites on that. And I can't wait to to sort of show Boondock fans that I can do more than just Boondock Saints. As much as I love it, and as much of a part of their lives and maybe film lexicon as it's been, I can do more shit, man. I've got more stories in me. I'm a writer, and it always just kind of happens up here. And I hope that I live long enough and have enough opportunity to get to show these fans, that I can do other things.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm going to tune in, you know. I'm going to wrap it up, but thank you so much, Troy, for talking to me. And when the graphic novel comes out, give me a ring. When the movie comes out, give me a ring. When volume 2 comes out, give me a ring, and we'll revisit this conversation.
All right, man. Love to talk to you again. It's been inspiring. You kind of you got like some you brought some thoughts to the surface that I that I probably wouldn't normally talk about. You're a good
Well,
interview.
I like to think I'm pretty good at this. I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it's also the Irish connection, brother.
Quite possibly. All
All
right, you
right.
have a great day, man.
Slanja.
Sláinte.